Best as I can, up to speed as to why we're here this evening is to bring you, I suppose, through a little bit of my past previous background. And that I was born in Adelaide more years ago than I'm going to repeat here tonight, into what you would have to call a very low-end, blue-collar, non-financially educated family background. I did my matriculation many years ago, hoping, to enter into the clerical field, and I was fortunate enough to do so. In my early 20s, however, I became friends with with someone who was born into a very knowledgeable and connected investment family. This gentleman said to me one day, did I have an interest in making money in the stock market? I said, of course I've got an interest in the stock market. People back then with shares seemed to have a lot of money, lived in nice houses, drove nice cars. That's obviously something I'd like, but I also said to him it wasn't something that I could do. And this gentleman asked me why I thought it wasn't something I could do, and I could really only answer him in a manner similar to the following, and that is, as a lad, I would watch my father read the newspaper, and whenever he got to the finance sector, he'd put it between his thumb and his finger and flick it over and read the next section, whether it be the sports or the comics. I beg your pardon, having seen that, I always thought from that point forward you needed to be a Rhodes Scholar or a rocket scientist or maybe have 6 heads and work in the middle of the city in order to be independently successful in this industry. And this gentleman said to me that what I was going through and experiencing was quite normal. Again, in his opinion, I have to run around a fair bit here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. He said that when you have a situation in life where a very small amount of people know something about a field that the majority of the population are involved within but know very little about, and this smaller group charge a fee to assist the masses, or at least advise them, there may occasionally be a hesitancy by the smaller group to go and educate their clients to too greater an understanding as to what it is they're about. And I suppose 2 negatives that could come from an educated client in relation to this industry could be, first of all, that somebody knowing a little bit more today than they did about the industry in times gone by could go back and say to the people they've been using for assistance at that point, now I know a little bit more about the industry than I did before, I don't need your assistance as much as I was using it previously, and I suppose that could lead the smaller group to potentially have a fear of loss of future income. I suppose even worse than that is an educated client in relation to this industry could also then look back at the person that's been giving him advice and he's been paying for advice to that point in time and also say, now I know a little bit more about the industry than I did before. I've also come to the comfortable conclusion as well that you don't even know what you're doing and they may go and get somebody better. So is there any benefit at all in educating the masses about this industry, or more benefit, I suppose, in keeping it mystified and protective of a very select few? Beg your pardon, I'm not really sure the answer to that. We're not really here to discuss that here this evening either. But this gentleman did say to me that if I had a strong enough interest, he would do as his father had done with him, sit me down for a short period of time and see whether or not I could pick up some of the basics. And I thought that was a good opportunity and decided to take him up on it. We sat down one particular day, and I suppose really looked at what's covered in the news services of an evening on the TV, what a share was, what the All Ordinaries meant, what the Dow Jones was, what an exchange rate meant, etc., etc. And after approximately half an hour of time, I looked at this person and said, well, I don't really know how I feel at the moment, as I think I feel a little bit unusual, because I think I actually understood what it is you just tried to tell me, and I didn't think that I was supposed to. I went home that evening, put the news on for the first time ever, sat through the finance report at the end of it and understood it, and that got me quite excited. What I wanted to do was trade in this industry. I didn't have too much money to start with, so I wasn't looking at buying shares, say, to hold for a 12-month period of time to get a better return than what the banks were offering. What I was hoping to be able to do was do some research, obviously buy a share at a certain price, sell it shortly thereafterwards for more than I paid for it, put the money in the bank, and do it again and again and again. So it was also fairly obvious as well to me at that stage that before I could do that, I needed to add to the information I'd been given about this particular industry. And I thought the best way to get this additional information was to go off into the industry, ask those people that looked successful, or at least running around telling everyone they were successful, what I should do. And I received a lot of free advice. And with respect to the people that gave it to me over the years, most of it has proven to be questionable. Inevitably, however, it did eventually get me to the stage where I felt confident enough in making my first bit of research/selection, And I came about making my first selection, I should say, in a manner similar to the following. That is, I would go to the news building of an evening at 11:45 at night to get the next day's edition of our local newspaper and the Australian newspaper, because I felt now that I was in a position to read and understand finance reports, I may eventually come across a new and exciting announcement, and of course being the only person at 11:45 at night reading the newspaper, that would allow me to act very quickly the next day, buy the share, and by the time everyone else realised how good an announcement had just been made and bought into the stock as well, they'd push the price of the share up and I'd be able to make some profit. The very first trade came about in a manner similar to the following. After a wee bit of nightly research, I came across an announcement in the finance pages similar to this. There was a company expecting to make $1 million in profit, said, I'm sorry, we've got it wrong. We've made $4 million in profit, or 4 times expected profit target, which for myself at that point was a very exciting announcement. Beg your pardon, I looked at the price of the share at that point in time, and it happened to be approximately $1 in value. So I started to think, obviously, if everyone starts to realise how good an announcement's just been made, 4 times expected profit margin, and buys into that particular stock, they could push the price of the share up in accordance with the announcement, maybe 3 to 4 times in value. And I'd also at that point be very happy to not be too greedy, If I could buy the share at $1, I'd be happy to sell it at $1.50 or $2 and just do it again and again and again. So I can remember picking the phone up, ringing a stockbroker, say, Mr. and Mrs. Stockbroker, just come across this new and exciting announcement. You may not even be familiar with it yourself. It was only made yesterday. However, this particular company has made 4 times their expected profit margin. The price of the share at this point in time is $1. Obviously, when everyone else realises how good an announcement has just been made, they'll push the price of the share up. I'd like some first up this morning, please. Will you please make sure that you get them for me so that I can watch those shares move the minute that everyone else joins in? No worries, Mr. Salmon, we'll do that for you. They bought those shares, the market opened, and on my very first trade in this manner, they did move for me. Straight down to about 80 cents, and I took a loss. So obviously I thought I must have made a mistake or missed something out, so I did a bit more research, inevitably eventually coming across another announcement. Might have been a mining company. Yesterday didn't have a mine, today did have a mine, in effect tenfolding their net worth. Their shares happen to be approximately $1 in value as well. I bought those after the positive announcement, and they did the same thing. They went backwards to approximately 80 cents as well, and I took another loss. This got me quite confused back then. In this instance, I thought shares went up after positive announcements, not down. Well, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't confuse me anymore, because in essence, that's what tends to happen. Shares tend to go up after bad announcements and down after good announcements. Let's face it, if they all went up after good announcements, all we'd all have to do is line up at the newspaper building at 11:45 at night, buy the share the next day, it would go up, and there wouldn't be enough private islands in the world for us all to purchase.